They are the Jets of the West. They are definitely not sexy. I feel like very bland, and I wish I was wearing like a brown shirt.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. If you are a repeat listener and you've listened to us before, you already know you're in trouble because I am your host, the D.O.N, and if I'm here as the host, that must mean it's the Voncast with your favorite, Vinny Gonzalez. Vin, how are you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing so great. It's just a pleasure to be here. Didn't know if it was going to happen tonight, but through all the technical issues and pure will, we are here.
If this was a flight, we would have missed it.
Oh, 100%. Or it would have been delayed like 3 hours, and then you have to drive there.
And then we would have had to sleep over because there was like a failure in the AC unit of the airplane.
Truly fucking awful. We can't even see you. We're just doing audio right now because we've had so many issues, but we're going to power through for the AFC West podcast.
That's right. We are here with the AFC West. Before we start going, though, I'd like to just go with a little sponsor message that we have here from Auction Draft. So if you're looking for a new home for your auction league or possibly looking to play for the first time, Auction Draft is the best site for running your fantasy football auction league in 2018. They're LTFF approved, and you can sign up now and get on the list for launch by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft. Also, use a promo code for Let's Talk Fantasy Football because we hold quite a bit of weight with these guys here. We don't give you just 5 or 10%. We get you 25% off of your league. So go check them out. They're great. Other than that, Vin, are you ready to dip those toes into the AFC West, into the nice Pacific water
Yes,
here?
man, finally. Let's do this thing.
All right, man. Let's start off hot with the Denver Broncos. We got a lot of change going on this year, starting at the quarterback position itself. Case Keenum, man. Let's get rock and roll, Vin. What do you think, dude?
I think it's a good ad. I mean, John Elway seems to know what the fuck he's doing. He gets good quarterback play, at least, decent quarterback play out of what they've been able to do without like high caliber guys. So this is definitely an upgrade from Simeon and Brock, who both took a walk this season. So Case Keenum coming in, obviously he's a journeyman, but had his best season with the Vikings last year. So I think it's an upgrade for the Broncos. Their offense hasn't been very trustworthy as of late. It's been like very subpar, and they haven't been really up to the standards in fantasy, been pretty inconsistent. So I hope Keenum brings some sort of balance here. And I think he will. I just don't know if it's going to be that fantasy. Like, it's not going to be a fantasy goldmine, I don't think. I think they'll all have their games. Obviously, we're going to go through everybody here, but hopefully Keenum makes these guys have, more than half the season will be playable for everybody. So hopefully it's an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to be more of an upgrade for the players around. I don't know if Case Keenum's going to be really an option for you in a draft unless you're in a 2-quarterback league. His ADP in a 12-team PPR based off of a fantasy football calculator is 23rd. Yeah. I mean, which I actually, I was kind of surprised at first, but then looking at the list, I mean, this is a pretty stout year for quarterbacks. Just a few names to go ahead of him. Starting from 18 would be Derek Carr, then Marcus Mariota, Dak Prescott, Alex Smith, Eli Manning. The only one behind him really is Mitch Trubisky. So he finished 14th overall. I looked that up after over a half-point PPR league because I couldn't find it off of full-point PPR. So that would slink him down just a little bit. But I mean, either way, I don't think anyone's really looking to go after Case Keenum unless it's like a 2 QB league and you're you're stuck with like a late round second quarterback because you went for some bigger guys ahead of it. So I don't know if there's really much more we really need to talk on Case Keenum, especially this early. But I think he definitely brings more value to his wide receivers this year, which we saw a major decrease from last year, especially Demaryius Thomas, who fell short of 1,000 yards for the first time since 2011.
Yeah. We could just talk about them together, actually. They both severely disappointed. Demaryius Thomas and Manuel Sanders both did really poorly. I guess Demaryius Thomas didn't have a completely bad year. He finished with 83 catches. He said just under 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. So it's pretty mediocre stuff when you're looking at the grand scheme of fantasy and where he was expected to be performing at and like that elite level. But now he's going at 4-7, seventh pick in the fourth round right now with our usual fantasy football calculator ADP, 12 teams PPR. So I don't know. I think it's a round later than he was last year, which I think is us correcting where he should go. And I think he might even go later in drafts than 4.7. So.
Yeah, I mean, I grabbed a few guys that go ahead of him and before him. Starting with like the round before is Larry Fitz, T.Y., Stephon Diggs, and Allen Robinson. These are the guys that are going ahead of him. And right after him is Juju, and literally right after him, the 8th pick, 9th pick is Juju Smith-Schuster, Amari Cooper, and then you see Alshon Jeffrey, Golden Tate, and Brandon Cooks like right behind him. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a coin toss, man, on where you're going with a lot of these guys. There's some I think I'd like a little bit better, and there's some that I feel like Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Who can we name game out of this? Like,
sure. I mean, we could just hit some of these guys that are behind him, I guess, or we can ahead of him. Larry Fitzgerald or T.Y. Hilton.
I don't know about obviously, but I might be more willing to take it's riskier to take T.Y., but the ceiling is way higher with the luck injury, obviously. So I think I'd go T.Y. over Thomas for sure. So I think that's correct.
Mm-hmm. And then what about Diggs and Allen Robinson? Those are the two guys.
Yeah, I think I'd take both of them too. And, we were talking on the other podcast, me and Walsh, about how Robinson's pretty risky when you kind of think about it, but he's, the inherent number one. New situation for both these guys, Thomas and Robinson. So I don't know. Thomas has been kind of falling off. So I think I would go Robinson there just as like a risk reward kind of deal.
Cool. Right behind. I think that's fair. I don't know how sold I am on Mitch Trubisky, but also I don't really know how sold I am with Case Keenum, Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas he's been showing decline for the past few years. Obviously, he's not in the Peyton Manning offense, right? So we obviously can expect that. But I mean, he really has been like slowly declining every single year. So you got to take that for granted. He's not a young guy. He's starting to see father time a little bit, especially being a receiver at 31. So, but behind him is Juju Smith-Schuster, then Amari Cooper, Alshon Jeffrey, Golden Tate, and Brandon Cooks. For me, I definitely like Demaryius Thomas better than Golden Tate.
I would much rather have Golden Tate, who's going to see like probably anywhere from 80 to 90 plus catches. So I would definitely take him over Demaryius Thomas. I hate Juju,
what
even
about
though
Juju
he's like
Smith-Schuster?
awesome as a person. I can't stand him.
I like Juju. I think he's.
He hurt my man Burfict, dude. Standing over him. What did Burfict do to anybody?
Your man Burfict. What is he? He's
a great middle linebacker when he's not suspended and playing and stuff. But anyway, that's besides the point. Juju. I'd probably take Juju. Yeah.
Okay. What about Amari Cooper?
I don't necessarily want any of those guys. But if I had to rank Cooper, Thomas, and Jeffrey, I think I would rank them Cooper, Jeffrey, Thomas. I think I'd rather. Yeah, I don't like what's Thomas's ceiling with Case Keenum? It's, he can be good some weeks, and I think just that's his ceiling. He'll be good. I don't know if there's like some kind of elite fantasy level that he can reach this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Keenum's going to pan out a little bit more for Manuel Sanders, which we'll hit in a second. But one other one is Brandon Cooks, man. I think that's actually an interesting comparison. What do you think?
I would. This is probably where I would take DT, just because he'd have more of a safer Safer floor, I think. I don't know how Cooks is going to integrate into that offense. Probably really well, but I just don't know. He'll just be super boom or bust for me, and I hate that. I hate those kind of players, and sometimes I pay for it in drafts, but I'd rather have a steadier guy than someone who could disappear in a couple games despite being like, a high level talent like Cooks. Exactly.
Consistency, man. It's what I like. I will say that I think Brandon Cooks will finish with more fantasy points, but it's going to be very boom or bust where he's going to put up like a shit ton of points like a few weeks and then have like no points for you. So I think Demaryius Thomas will be the safer, more consistent, like you said, where you're going to have a better floor out of him. So that's fair. At that point, I might just take a flyer on Brandon Cooks though. But again, Brandon Cooks, you don't know what he's going to do with the Rams. And for the past few years, he hasn't been a steady producer every week. So, but going to the next receiver, which we talked about, Manuel Sanders, who's also 31. I was reading off of Roto-World. If you guys get a chance, if you're like a newer, if you're newer to fantasy football, a good person to read from is Evan Silva. He's pretty knowledgeable, and he's someone I like reading a lot from. He posted in there that and we're going to hit also Cortland Sutton, who they drafted, but because they did draft him and he's a big outside receiver, Emmanuel Sanders is going to be getting a lot more slot work. And from Keenum last year, his go-to receiver was Adam Thielen.
Diggs too, man, hopping in and out. He loves the slot.
So, and was targeted by Keenum. Right. So, and Keenum loves hitting his slot receivers, so that could also boost up, I think, Emmanuel Sanders. So I think where Emmanuel Sanders is going, which would be in the beginning of the 8th round, and I know that you guys kind of talked about this last week with the Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, and where all these guys were falling. That's where Emmanuel Sanders kind of falls, and I think would be better value than for you to reach for Demaryius Thomas. So I think he'd be an even safer,
and I think that's kind of been the case the last couple years. We look for the value in Sanders, the ceiling with Thomas, and I think they're both kind of eroding. So it's I like your take, Don. That's an interesting one. I didn't even really think about that too much, but I guess I didn't really think about Sutton too much. They did take him 8th pick, 2nd round out of SMU, and he's a big dude, big possession receiver, contested balls probably. So they're going to have two big guys on the outside with Thomas and Sutton, and then Sanders said, he'd run free across the middle. So hopefully the thing with Sanders is he hasn't been able to stay healthy for a full 16 games, and when he does, he's very inconsistent, and you can't really depend on him to be a productive guy in your lineup. So that's where I kind of think that's where his value is going away, and I think I'm going to try to see if he slides even further than that. I don't know. I agree that he's a value, but I just don't know how valuable he will be depending on where you get him.
He's definitely in an interesting position. I think this is probably one of the more interesting spots of where receivers go. Ahead of him is Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, and Randall Cobb. That's all from about mid to late 7th round to beginning of the 8th. And then right behind him, though, is Jordy Nelson, Jamison Crowder, Devontae Parker, Robbie Anderson, and Cooper Kupp. And then Marquise Goodwin and Allen Hurns. So, this is a very interesting lineup of receivers that you're about to go. And this is all literally from about the end of the 7th round all to the beginning of this 9th. So, it's a big bunch there, so you're obviously flipping a coin in that section. So if you're going for Emmanuel Sanders,
some of those guys, it's funny because there's a wide spectrum of dudes there, and I think it becomes a preference kind of deal. So you're going to have to go with the flow of your draft if these guys kind of maintain their ADPs, because you're looking at the older guys like Sanders and Jordy, and the younger guys like Parker, Crowder, Robbie Anderson, and Goodwin. So you're going to have to make some choices there, and I'm pretty sure we'll get into that when we hit on the other guys. We're even talking about Jordy Nelson on the next podcast, so we'll touch on that there. It's just becoming a risk-reward, depending on what you think these guys will do in their new places or in their new roles. So it's really depending.
Yeah. What I could say is
I can get behind that for sure. They're the opposite of sexy. They are ugly. I don't even know what to call them. It's just not good.
They're just like meh. Like their names hold value, but it's just like we don't know what's going to go on. You got older, declining receivers with a journeyman quarterback.
They're kind of like becoming the Jets.
Career last year at a different team.
They really are, man.
Denver, you heard it here first. Denver Broncos is the Jets of the West. Fucking woof, dude. You have anything else on here with
no?
with
I think
Sanders?
We got that pretty well.
Cortland Sutton. Well, before I go out, do you have anything else on Emmanuel Sanders? Okay, I think Cortland Sutton's kind of a fun one. You should look out after for the preseason. He was the number 40 overall pick. They really seem to like him. He's apparently supposed to be a freak athlete. I mean, he's 6'3", 218. He's a big dude. So, someone to look after. He's going undrafted right now. I don't know if he's going to be drafted, but someone to look forward to in the preseason and beginning of the season for waiver wires, possibly.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's interesting, very interesting.
Do we need to touch tight ends? I mean, I got the starter as Jeff Hornan.
Yeah, Jeff Herman. They have Jake Butt, and they drafted Troy Fumagalli.
Well-known receivers. Hey, they're not sexy, so
something like that. Doesn't matter. We're going to skip all those dudes. Who cares? We should.
Yes. Take it away, man.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, now we can get to their total clusterfuck of running backs. So we got C.J. Anderson walking away, going to the Panthers, and he's pretty much been one of their better players and a very consistent running back, despite, I don't want to say limited chances because they have used him as a workhorse. They just have used him inconsistently as a workhorse. So he still is leaving 245 carries. He left 1,000 yards, and he did it right on the ground in a bad offense with a rough O-line. So I think that speaks more to C.J. Anderson than it does to what the Broncos are able to do with their remaining pieces. So we got Devontae Booker, who is suspected to be the lead right now. Obviously, his ADP is the highest, I believe. I don't know if Royce Freeman is beating him yet, but Royce Freeman is the rookie they drafted. And everyone, of course.
Gotcha.
Oh. Well, I meant on the depth chart so far. It's Booker, and that's pretty much all we can go off of right now. So I got Booker still leading that right now, and then Freeman might overtake him. I mean, that's what everyone's banking on. So everyone's always hot for these rookie dudes, but and then we still have D'Angelo Henderson, who's been on the team for a little bit, and they do kind of throw him in the mix every now and then when they want to mix it up, and it's I don't know. It's just I don't know. I can't tell what they're going to do, and obviously everyone's hyped up on Freeman, and then Booker kind of becomes an interesting ad if you can get him
Here's
later.
all I'll say is
so I'm not entirely sure what to do.
It seems to repeat itself over there between, say, like Noshawn Moreno, who actually ended up having one decent year out of them, and then who was it? Was it Ball? Monte Ball, another C.J. Anderson didn't pan out the way they wanted to.
Monte Ball was the rookie that busted.
Decent, but not that they want. And now,
total mess.
Now, again, here they go, drafting another Royce Freeman, which they – I mean, I'm reading here that Elway said that he wants him to be week one starter, a bell cow type. He's a big dude that had a great career at Oregon. He ran a 4.5 40, and they're saying that he can take the snaps from first down through third down. But also Devontae Booker, I mean, what I think from what I've read is Royce Freeman's going to be the starter. He's going to be the bell cow. And then Devontae Booker, who is not that efficient on per carry with not even 4 yards a carry, but he is per reception getting almost 9 yards a catch. I think it could be a 1-2 and then Devontae Booker in the 3. I can tell you Royce Freeman is going as the 28th running back. He's going a mid-round in the 5th for a 12-point PPR, 12-person PPR, right after Lamar Miller and Deion Lewis and before Marlon Mack versus Devontae Booker is going all the way at the end of the 10th behind Dante Foreman, Jamal Williams, and right before Doug Martin and LeGarrette Blount. So there seems to be a big disparity, and I do definitely think that Freeman is going to be their man that they're set on.
Yeah, man, it's just it's so tough. Like, Don, would you be comfortable paying up 5th round for Royce Freeman?
No, I mean, listen, like I said, history seems to repeat itself there, so I don't know. There's a lot of questionable things going on with that offense. I think overall, they feel confident. I think it starts with Case Keenum, and I think he's going to be way better than a Trevor Siemian, so it's going to lighten up that offense quite a bit. But again, I don't know too much about Royce Freeman yet, but they really are talking high about him. I wouldn't doubt if he actually did have a good season, though. But I think it's going to be more shared than where the disparity is of over 5 rounds. I think Devontae Booker is going to get way more of a share than it's saying. I think Devontae Booker would, with obviously his efficiency for per reception in a PPR league, that would be a good add in that 10th round. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if Royce Freeman actually has a decent year. So,
I'm inclined to agree with the Booker stuff, Don. I really think he'll see the field more than people think. Whether that be a 60-40 share in Freeman's favor, like that might not matter if it's PPR and Booker's getting a lot of catches, and then 10th round value. That should that should return to you, no problem. The Freeman, I just cannot pay up for that. And he's kind of like it's not great. And then like C.J. Anderson averaged 15.3 carries per game, so I imagine that they would try to work Freeman into that kind of workload, and we just haven't seen that. It's not very trustworthy of the Broncos, so it's like that seems to be his ceiling, and might not be seeing third down or catching a lot of passes out of the backfield. So his ceiling is limited, and at 5, in the 5th round, I mean, I think you're probably taking him at his ceiling, and it's risky.
Ben. So I'm not going to even go with the guys ahead of him because I think you would definitely take Deion Lewis and Lamar Miller before him. Right behind him is Marlon Mack, who actually will hit once we get that division. From what I've read so far, he's the man to go to for running back in Indy. Marlon Mack's behind him. Tevin Coleman, Tariq Cohen, Kerryon Johnson, and Carlos Hyde. And Chris Thompson and Aaron Jones. So, Royce Freeman or Marlon Mack?
I think I would go Mack. I think I would rather get riskier with an offense that I think could perform at a way higher ceiling than the Broncos could if Andrew Luck is healthy. So I take the risk there.
Already set number 2 running back in the depth chart, Tevin Coleman.
Never been a huge Tevin Coleman fan, so I think I would. Man, I don't want to take Freeman though, but I think in this situation, for the name game's sake, I would take
beloved,
Freeman.
Tariq Cohen.
Man, he's not my beloved, so I think I would rather try Freeman out there.
Kerryon Johnson out of Detroit.
I do not trust Detroit at all for a run game whatsoever, so I'm going to go with Freeman there.
2 more. Carlos Hyde or Freeman.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've already came out on the very first podcast.
Give me some Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde is well undervalued, and I like him where he's at. And a Chris Thompson or Aaron Jones over
Indeed.
versus Royce Freeman.
At this point, we're so far away from their ADPs that I think it would have to be kind of how my team would shake out for that.
Chris Thompson had a good year before he got hurt.
But I do I think I do like those guys more, and they're presenting more of a value than Freeman. So I think I would take either of those guys and wait and not take.
Yeah, they're about 2 full rounds behind him too.
And not take Freeman
where
where
he's going at all. To see where he falls. That's someone you obviously have to keep an eye out for during this preseason as well, and go from there. But be wary of rookie running backs that have a good preseason and doesn't always pan out as well. Other than that, Vin, do you have anything else for Denver Broncos? Anything more, Devontae Booker or any of the running backs before we take a break?
No, I think we did all right. Kind of shit on them a little bit more than I thought we would, because I was doing the research. I was like, oh, they got some hope, and we started talking, just laying out. It's not.
Yeah,
it's,
I could
it's a
just
grim
say,
outlook for
you know
the
what?
Broncos. I
Let's
think.
just circle back to they are the Jets of the West. They are definitely not sexy. I feel like very bland, and I wish I was wearing like a brown shirt because I just feel blah right now after the first start of this podcast. Man, I need more flair, especially if I'm going to host. You know.
Oh, we got some flair coming though, Don. You did the most research for the next team, which is the Chiefs.
I wouldn't say the
that's
most
teased,
research,
and,
but I did research it. So that's why I was like, yo, fuck Walsh and Shrek having to get the second part of this podcast. I already have this shit already down, and I never prepare. So,
right, any research is more research
normally
than you
I
would
don't
do
have any.
at any
Just
given
gut
time.
feelings, and usually you just can't listen to anything I say. But for that, I need to grab another beer. We're gonna take a break.
Auction Draft is the best site for running your fantasy football auction league in 2018. You can sign up now and get on the list for launch by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/auction draft.
And we are back from our beer break. We are going to start off with maybe I think this will definitely be more interesting with a Kansas City Chiefs, Shrek's favorite. There's a lot of change. Obviously, ship out Alex Smith. They now we're going to have Pat Mahomes, who they drafted last year for, and they also added a Mr. Sammy Watkins. So offense is going to look new under Mr. Andy Reid. I think that's one of our favorite guys that we like to talk about as well. So, Vin, why don't you start me off with Kansas City, and I'll just kind of follow suit here.
Oh, sure, dude. So heir apparent, Patrick Mahomes, the second we got coming in, and I don't know if people are overrating him or what. I'm really not sure. I'm not like totally in love with him, like let's say Jimmy Garoppolo or something like that. Mahomes has showed that he's a decent quarterback for sure. I think this season is going to definitely, obviously, they're throwing him right in, so it's going to be a big judgment season. So I don't think people are going to draft him. I think it's going to be more of the players around him that
not true. He could be actually. Especially if we're looking at 2 QB leagues. Vin, he's number 16 off the board for quarterbacks, right behind Ben Roethlisberger. They have him over guys that have been viable options in the past. He's ahead of Jameis Winston, who we just read earlier that could face some a suspension for not I guess bringing up to everyone that he has grope allegations, so I guess he can get suspended for that. I don't know. Good job, Jameis, fucking that up. And then also behind him is Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, which we had rated high last year going into the season, ahead of Dak Prescott, ahead of Alex Smith. So these are some of these guys. So 2 QB league. I think it's kind of surprising. It's 16th quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's leaning towards the overrating of Patrick Mahomes so far.
Overrating
from what we've seen,
overrating
sample
or the
sizes.
forecast around him. I mean, he's got a good offense too.
Yeah, but like to take him over those guys who have been mainstays, and I think will probably outperform Mahomes. It's got to be the supporting cast. It's just once you take out a guy like Alex Smith, who's so like, despite not being explosive, Alex Smith was always consistent and great, and he did throw more than I think he's ever in his career last year with 505 pass attempts, which. It's towards the top of the league now. Alex Smith had never done that before, so maybe offense starts leaning that way. But Patrick Mahomes is still pretty green.
Very green.
So it's tough to trust. And I think people are kind of jumping in with both feet, and I'm not ready to. And I think that's why I think he's overrated right now.
We're the group that in our league, the way it's set is, none of us are really quarterback savvy. We like to wait. So, I mean, it's a deep quarterback crew. There's just so many of them. It's not if you're a one quarterback league, I just don't see Pat Mahomes being a drafted guy. I think he's some of that. Maybe as a streamer would be a great streamer at some point, depending on how he plays. So, but he is 16th off the board. He does have a good supporting cast, so we'll see how he goes from there. I think what I really want to talk about and gauge your opinion on is Sammy Watkins, dude. I think it's very interesting because I think Sammy Watkins is kind of like, Tyreek Hill is a utility player as well, but Tyreek Hill is also that deep ball guy, but so is Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, now they have 2 field stretchers, and Hill can do it all. He proved me completely wrong last year. I think he did fantastic. I completely overjudged him as someone who wouldn't be able to handle a full 1 workload, and he definitely did.
He's Batman's utility belt.
Absolutely. he's got it all, dude. But now that they have 2 guys that pretty much are capable of doing the same thing, their offense is pretty potent. But you just got to watch both of them. I mean, some people think Sammy Watkins is pretty washed, but I don't know. I still love Sammy Watkins. Did what he was asked of on the Rams. Had 8 total touchdowns, but not much else. Low catches, low yards.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a fair assessment of washed out. I think he played his role.
No, I completely agree. I think he does
the Rams.
What he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much of what he's asked, because he's had injuries and whatnot. But I think Sammy Watkins is great. It's just going to be an interesting dynamic to see. I wish Alex Smith was still there, because the Chiefs have never really had a solid number 2, and Sammy Watkins is an incredibly solid number 2 for this offense, especially when you have Travis Kelce, who's in the middle, pretty much running as their number 1 wide receiver all the time, despite being a tight end. So
yeah, I think
it's just they got a lot of weapons now.
I think Alex Smith could be a top 10 QB with this offense.
I wish he was still there.
Yeah.
But sadly, we get the gamble on Mahomes.
He catches the shit end of the stick, Alex Smith. But yeah, no, very interesting. Sammy Watkins, before we obviously get into Tyreek Hill, but Sammy Watkins is going in. He's the 7th pick in the 7th round. Ahead of him is Pierre Garçon, Julian Edelman, even with the suspension, and Devin Funchess. Behind him is ex-teammate Robert Woods for both teams. Randall Cobb, Emmanuel Sanders. Again, this is the round that we were talking about earlier. Randall Cobb, Emmanuel Sanders, Jordy Nelson, Jameson Crowder, Devontae Parker. So it's a very interesting crew there. Name game Sammy Watkins. Robert Woods or Sammy Watkins.
I would go Sammy.
Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins.
Randall Cobb.
Emmanuel Sanders, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy.
Jordy Nelson, Sammy Watkins.
That's tough. I think I'd go Jordy.
I do too. Jameson Crowder, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy.
And Devontae Parker, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy? Man, this just is showing me how much I love Sammy Watkins more than I actually know.
You know what, dude? I'm gonna hop on the Sammy Watkins train too. I like Sammy Watkins this year.
I do too. You
know what? I think Mahomes is gonna throw a fuck ton of interceptions because he's just gonna want to air it out to both Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill all year.
Yeah, that's a good point too. They might just air it the fuck out and see a lot of targets. But the thing is, like Hill, Watkins, Kelce, and then Kareem Hunt, they're all competing for targets, and that's an elite cast of dudes. And it might be tough for Sammy. Like, he could wind up like he was on the Rams, very inconsistent, not targeted often, but could be reliable for touchdowns every so often. It's just I could see how Watkins is like a pitfall. So I think our love is blinding us right now, but there's a lot
to make your love even more blind and set it to a path where we don't need to go because it's just so early. But fuck it, why not? As I was reading my Roto World, I was Chiefs.com. BJ Kissel wrote the connection between Patrick Mahomes and Sammy Watkins is real. Now, if that's not if that's not the intro to the next Nicholas Spark love book, I don't know what is. Love novel. So I don't know. Now I'm getting really excited. So apparently Mahomes and Watkins are a love interest and things are real.
That makes me feel bad about talking good about Watkins now. I hate like when the coach speak comes around and just beat writer stuff about connections. Like, who gives a shit? I'm not buying that. Sorry, Don. I didn't mean to ruin your novel.
Well, I guess I'll be the only one reading that one.
As usual. Poor Don.
Anyway, I think we've made our point on Sammy Watkins. Tyreek Hill.
He good. Very good.
Batman's utility belt, man. Who needs Robin when you got Tyreek Hill? Had a great year last year. He is going mid-third round. Right behind Doug Baldwin, Adam Thielen, and Josh Gordon. But before that, Larry Fitzgerald, T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs, A-Rob, and Demaryius Thomas section. I think that's fair.
Yes,
I like Tyreek
I was
Hill.
going to say, that's pretty much dead on. I hope he doesn't move either way.
Yeah, I think I would take Tyreek Hill over all of those guys. Even Stephon, I think the only one that would give me a little bit of Stephon Diggs, but I still think I would take Tyreek Hill. But I do like Doug Baldwin, Adam Thielen, Josh Gordon before.
Yeah, I might even like Hill over Gordon. I know Gordon's a freak and all, but
No, I like Gordon. He's gonna have dude. Do you not? See
I know,
that picture
dude.
of
He's
him?
got muscles on things I haven't seen before.
He's a freak, dude. He was out of the league for like 2 years,
Yeah.
and look at what he did. He still
Just
had like a above solid play last
He's a
year.
freak.
It was crazy, and he's huge now, dude. Josh Gordon's gonna. I'll take Josh Gordon over Tyreek Hill, but I you know what? I wouldn't argue like if someone's like, I'll take Tyreek Hill over Josh Gordon. Like I wouldn't argue. But I think I honestly think Josh Gordon's upside is actually higher.
That is fair. That's fair, Don. Very, very fair.
Dude, Josh Gordon, I mean, look what he did before he got caught, man. He was like the number one wide receiver on the shittiest of Browns teams. Well, not shittiest because they went undefeated, but or defeated, but there was no one there. So anyway, that's where Tyreek Hill lands. Do we need to go on, or Tyreek Hill is where he should be? He's
the thing with Hill is he's no longer one dimensional for me. Like he kind of proved it last year. He's capable of running intermediate routes, short routes, and obviously he's always a threat to take it all the way to the house, despite what kind of pass it is. So I think Hill is on the safer side, an elite talent, and I think he's a good pick going right where he is.
Yeah, I like it a lot. That's the first guy we've seen that I've liked exactly where he is and wouldn't question around it. Cool, man. Other wide receivers that I've got is a Chris Conley and Demarcus Robinson. Obviously, none of them are really going drafted. Conley did have an Achilles injury at one point, but he seems to be pretty healthy. Do you have anything on these guys?
No, it's their usual cast of the third string dude running around. You'll see them do impressive things because they do what they're asked of, and they do it well sometimes. And so you might see one of these guys catch a cool touchdown or do a cool play, but they're gadget dudes for Andy Reid, and that's I think what they're going to stay as.
Cool, man. Let's talk about the position we care about most. Running backs.
Kareem Hunt,
take me away.
The anomaly of last year. As Walsh put it on the last podcast, the best running back in a 4-game sample size of all time. So it's tough to go off of because there was that 9 scoreless weeks for him, weeks 4 to 13, and it was pretty tough on owners because after the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think panic set in for them because they're like, I should have traded him high, which is always one of the pitfalls of fantasy, and it's tough to judge. I don't know because I feel like the Chiefs had a slump altogether as a team, not just Kareem Hunt. Had a huge slide of 6 games during these weeks where Hunt wasn't performing well. So I think the team was also at fault, but he's obviously displayed immense talent, captured fantasy hearts immediately. So I think wherever he's going in drafts, it's going to be higher than you think. So it's going to be tough for me to sack up and take him, I think, especially with the new offensive change with Alex Smith leaving. So I'm a little worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's
situational.
More ability worried more than like you said. I think it's just what is Andy?
Correct.
What is Andy
also
planning on doing that week? You know what I mean? I don't know why they wouldn't just game plan.
Yeah, but the thing is, now they have Terkandrick West, Spencer Ware. They signed Damian and Kerwin Williams. So
Dude, I think honestly,
It's
it's
crowded.
funny because I actually listed all of them because overall, I think in the league to have if you ranked all 5 backs on every team, I think they have the most stacked amount of like running backs in general. I mean,
Andy needs his running backs, and he will fuck around with us sometimes, but he's always got his main guy, which is good and scary sometimes. So it's obviously Kareem Hunt is going to take the lead here, but there are guys behind him who can fill in and do things. So we will be seeing them more often than not, I think, on offensive possessions. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kareem Hunt's snap count is way down, and it's just going to be something that we don't understand, but Andy Reid will be game planning for every week. So it's going to be tough to trust Hunt as to do what we saw last year. So I'm really worried.
Yeah. I mean, it's very fair. Andy Reid is always one of those coaches that throws a wrench in your game plan. Kareem Hunt's not the first for fantasy wise, not the first player to be affected by Andy Reid. So I know you guys kind of did a rundown of running backs or not running backs, rundown of who's your first overall pick, which kind of led to a lot of these guys. But behind Kareem Hunt is Melvin Gordon, Odell Beckham, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, Julio, Michael Thomas. Is there any of these guys that you would take over Kareem Hunt if you're in that 9th position of the first round? Is there anyone that you would say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go with
Don, you'll like this one. I like Melvin Gordon over Kareem Hunt. And I like every single wide receiver pretty much immediately after him too. It's too risky when you can get an elite guy that's been there and done that. And I just like specifically Melvin Gordon going right after him, I think is ridiculous because Gordon was fantastic last year. They should be better this year.
Yeah. I love Melvin Gordon, and the Chargers are my AFC team to follow. I had Melvin Gordon for a few years in a row. Melvin Gordon was very good, but I would rather a Melvin if he could fall to my second, if you go running back, and you're in the 10th spot, or I would love Melvin Gordon to be I think Melvin Gordon is the best number 2 running back because I think he's he always gets you a solid, double digit, but he's never going to have a crazy breakout game really versus I think Kareem Hunt can do that. So I'm kind of teetering on that, but I think the most interesting thing is because it's so running back heavy this year.
That's and also me and Walsh touched on that in our first podcast this year is just it's so wide receiver rich on the back end of the first and deep into the second that it's hard to justify going so early on a guy Kareem Hunt is probably a lot of people's guy for sure. So I get why you would take him. He's an immense talent. Did wonderful things last year. It's just passing up these guys. You might regret it later.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't hate where he's going. I still, and I don't want to knock Saquon Barkley as I think he's so good, but I still might like a Kareem Hunt over Saquon Barkley. It all depends. Again, it's Andy Reid gameplay, so I like where he is right now. I gotta mess with that around more. But I will say, fun fact: I did a mock draft. Our main league is a 10-team league, so that's what I started off with. I do like to do 12 teams because I'm in a lot of 12-team leagues too, and I think that's what a lot of people are in. But just for you 10-team leaguers and for us, I took a DeAndre Hopkins, and we're in a PPR league, and my second round pick was Julio Jones. So I had a DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones back-to-back, which I thought was insane. So it's kind of crazy what this first round's doing with all these running backs. So be wary. But just remember Odell Beckham and Julio Jones are right there. So crazy stuff. We won't teeter too far away from our AFC West there. But Kareem Hunt, I like where you are right now. We'll go from there. Oh, I did want to bring up with Kareem Hunt though. Do we need to start worrying about
it's all right. He
Hunt
punched a dude. It's fine, man.
Field issues. Now I know that they just.
Well, what did she say to him?
And he also was accused of shoving a 19-year-old woman back in.
I'm kidding, Don. Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that.
Apparently, she was in the wrong. No, yes, but actually, it was where they're saying that she might have said something racist, and there were racial slurs. But since, and this is the last day of February, so since March, March is after February. Good job, Don. Since March, there's been 2 accusations of Kareem Hunt getting physical. Now, does that start to become a thing where you start to possibly worry about?
Maybe deep subconscious, but I wouldn't let it affect your draft strategy unless anything comes to an actual thing before the draft.
Just something fun to think about,
Oh, so fun. Legal troubles.
Anyways, we've talked plenty of Kareem Hunt. Other running backs, we said they have a stacked backfield. The only other one that's being drafted right now is Spencer Ware, who just came off of an injury.
Which is pretty much a handcuff.
Yeah. He's going very late, second pick of the 14th round. Is this all fair? I mean, behind him is a Bilal Powell and a Kenneth Dixon, and only one people before him is Peyton Barber.
Yeah, it's very whatever. It's,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's people taking Kareem Hunt and him.
Yeah, that exactly. So I think that's fair. I think you should cuff him, but yeah, I think you should cuff him if you get Kareem Hunt with a Spencer Ware. That's cool. But he goes where he goes. So other than that, do we have anything else on running backs with Kansas City?
No, and I think we could just wrap up their other best position, Travis Kelce, and I could say that he should be drafted number 1 tight end over Gronk, and I think that should be acceptable at this point.
I actually think that the only one that could be arguable is Zach Ertz with Travis Kelce.
Oh, so you're kicking Gronk out of the top 2?
I think Gronk is the best, but Gronk is just always injury ridden, where I would more teeter towards if I'm going to reach for a tight end, if I'm going Kelce or Ertz.
Okay.
I don't want to mess around with the Gronk injury bullshit.
Yeah, also, I mean, they always get it done, but just some weird shit coming out of the Patriots camp. It's just all shit anyway. But Travis Kelce has proved it. I think Mahomes will learn very quickly that Travis Kelce is always open and very good. So,
yes, I agree. I actually think I might have an edge on Zach Ertz. I think because Zach Ertz has proved with his backup Nick Foles that he had a great year, but also, once Wentz comes back too, Zach Ertz is that guy too. So I actually think I like Zach Ertz a little bit better, but I think it's Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz are my 2 that I'd be reaching for. Split hairs on that.
Yeah. Basically, the point we're trying to make is that all of these guys will probably be going in the mid-3rd, and that's what you have to pay up for. And if you're comfortable doing that, it's acceptable. They're the elite guys, and you won't have to worry about it later. And I think all 3 of those guys are safe, good, elite, and you kind of can't choose wrong, but I think I would rank them Travis Kelce first. Don's leaning towards the Ertz,
especially especially, I mean, 2 things you'd be looking at. Obviously, one is after the top 5, but they really trickle down really bad. So if you want a number 1 at your tight end where you're going to have that advantage over everyone else, that's where you do the reach. Or if you have leagues that are 2 tight ends and you really want to capitalize on that, that's where you go with those guys. But
indeed.
Yeah, man, that's what we got. So other than that, we've just wrapped up Kansas City. Do you have anything else on Kansas City before we hit some
No, man, questions? Let's hit the questions.
All right. First reader question here is from Tony. Tony says that he's in a half-point PPR keeper league, and he needs to choose 2 keepers. There's no penalty to keep. His choices are Deshaun Watson, Josh Gordon, Derrick Henry, Corey Davis, Cooper Kupp, and Kenny Galladay. He said he's torn, and he needs to know which 2 he's going to choose.
This is tough, man. He nailed, drafting the guys that have the highest potential, I think. All these guys have room to obviously grow, and some of them are even going to be awesome this year. So I would keep Derrick Henry, and I would keep it's so tough for me to keep Josh Gordon because of his off-field stuff, but I think I'm going to go with him. Take the upside, and then you got Josh Gordon, who's just a freak, and then Derrick Henry, who's entering the league finally as an RB1.
Yeah. I agree with Josh Gordon 100%, and I'm torn between the Derrick Henry and Deshaun Watson. I'd love to know where these rounds are going or how your
I think he's saying you pick 2 people and they're just on your team, and then you just kind of go for it from there.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I actually really like Deshaun Watson this year. I think it was unbelievable what he did before he got hurt last year with fantasy points. Like, it was astronomical numbers, and I think he's going to have a great year with DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm a believer with him. I'm cool with the Deshaun Watson pick, but I also do like the Derrick Henry. But I'll split it. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson and Josh Gordon because Derrick Henry has Deion Lewis on his
True, very
tail.
true. But also remember, quarterback is easily replaced, fantasy-wise.
There you go. So, Tony, definitely keep Josh Gordon. It is up to you, sir, on what you'd like to do with Deshaun Watson and Derrick Henry. We're going to go with Corbett11 from Instagram. What do you make of Tyreek Hill's stock with Patrick Mahomes at the helm? Vin, I think we answered that. I think that was like our easiest one to go over.
Yeah, he's arguably the safest guy for him. I think, as we talked about, he's done it all. Deep threat, short, intermediate. He's very good, and we'll definitely see his targets, game plan all the time. So I think Hill is great, and we said we're very comfortable paying for his price now. I think was it mid-third, 307. So that's totally fine. Don't go any higher. Don't go any lower.
He is perfect to where he is going. Last one from Josh. Can Kareem Hunt repeat his hot start from last year and turn it into consistency? I'm worried that without the few big games last year, he isn't as flashy as people think. So again, Vin, I think this is another one that we have kind of
Josh
answered.
He's totally right, because the hot start changes everybody's opinion, and then he dies for 9 weeks pretty much, and that's a damper on his season. But he still performed very well in between outside of those weeks. So I think I think I was more done, but there's definitely
Yeah, I agree there, Vin. Other than that, do we have anything else here with any of the questions before we cap off? All right. Well, that is the first part of AFC West. Check us out on letstalkfantasyfootball.com. Find us on Alexa, Google Home, Skill Store, and Get Mockin'.
Cool.
That's Vinny Gonzalez. I am the D.O.N. Be good, fam.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.